Okay, so ready to dive in. Today, we're going deep, really deep into Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet.
Uh-oh, time for star-crossed lovers and family feuds.
Exactly. But this isn't your high school English class. We're going to look at why this story, set in Verona, Italy, is so powerful even centuries later.
Sounds intense. What are we working with for this deep dive?
I've got a bunch of stuff. Plot summaries, study guides, stuff that can help us really dissect the play, and the feud between the Montagues and Capulets, of course.
Right. And it's not just about retelling the story. It's about why this play is so enduring, why it's still relevant. So where do we start?
Act 1, and Shakespeare throws us right into the action.
Oh, yeah. Right off the bat, it's a full-on street brawl. Servants from both houses, the Montagues and the Capulets.
Talk about a grudge match. But it's
Yeah.
more than just a fight, right? It establishes this deep, deep hatred that's just festering in Verona.
Right. I mean, right away we see Benvolio trying to stop the fight. He's a Montague. But Tybalt, he's a Capulet, and he just wants to fight. It shows that even the peacemakers are going to have a tough time.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then Prince Aeschylus shows up. That's when things get serious.
Big time. He's like, enough is enough.
Yeah.
If this happens again, the punishment is death. Talk about raising the stakes.
No more messing around. You can feel the tension. And then we meet Romeo, who's totally lovesick.
For Rosaline, right.
Right. But she doesn't love him back. And she's a Capulet.
Ouch, adding insult to injury.
So his friends, Benvolio and Mercutio, they're like, Romeo, you gotta snap out of this. Come to the Capulet party with us.
Bold move, going to the enemy's house to get over a girl.
Right, but it's Shakespeare. You know things are gonna get complicated. First, though, we see Lord Capulet talking to Paris about maybe marrying Juliet.
And Juliet's not exactly jumping for joy. I mean, she says she'll consider it, but she's not head over heels.
Yeah, looked alike if looking liking move. Shakespeare, the master of words. And Juliet, she's kind of trapped. She's expected to be obedient. It was a different time. Then, bam, Romeo shows up at the party wearing a mask.
Sneaking into enemy territory. Talk about a risky move.
Right. And then he sees her, Juliet. It's like the universe explodes.
Love at first sight.
And then some. Their first conversation, it's a sonnet. Pure poetry. It shows how connected they are instantly.
Okay, but we know this isn't going to be easy.
Not even a little, because Tybalt, he recognizes Romeo, and he is not happy.
Oh.
He wants to fight right then and there, but Lord Capulet, he stops him, wants to keep the peace, at least for the party.
Interesting. Makes you wonder if, deep down, even he's tired of all the fighting. Or maybe he's just trying to be a good host.
Yeah, good point. But the damage is done. Romeo and Juliet find out they're from enemy families. Cue the dramatic music.
Their worlds are shattered. Their love story starts with this huge obstacle, a wall between them. Act I ends,
Yeah.
and you just know this isn't going to end well.
Right. The tension is so thick you could cut it with a knife. Then in Act 2, Romeo is so in love that he sneaks back to Juliet's house.
Yeah, I remember. And he overhears her talking on the balcony, you know, the famous balcony scene. It's one of the most iconic scenes in all of literature.
So romantic. Right. She's pouring her heart out. She thinks she's alone.
But Romeo's right there, listening.
Yeah.
Talk about a charged moment.
And then they confess their love and decide to get married, like, immediately.
Juliet's hesitant, though. She knows this is crazy, it's dangerous.
Yeah.
But Romeo, he's all in.
So he goes to Friar Lawrence, asks him to marry them. Friar's like, hold on, didn't you just love Rosalind? He's a bit skeptical.
Understandably, Romeo's been known to, well, fall in love quickly.
But Friar Lawrence agrees, hoping maybe, just maybe, this marriage could end the feud.
A risky gamble for sure.
With the nurse's help, they meet in secret and get married. That friar is a brave soul.
Act 3. Things take a darker turn. Big time. It's not just romantic angst anymore.
It's a powder keg. Tybalt's still furious about Romeo at the party, looking for him, wants revenge.
Uh-oh.
And you've got Benvolio and Mercutio caught in the middle. Romeo shows up and he's like, whoa, Tybalt's family now. He doesn't want to fight.
But Mercutio doesn't know about the marriage, thinks Romeo's being a coward.
Yeah, so Mercutio fights Tybalt instead, and he's killed. It's a turning point. Everything changes.
And Mercutio's dying words, a curse on both their houses. So powerful, so ominous. It emphasizes that the feud is the real villain here.
Chilling. And Romeo, overcome with grief, kills Tybalt. Revenge, it's like a domino effect, each tragedy leading to the next.
The consequences are huge. When Juliet finds out she's torn, her husband killed her cousin, it's a nightmare.
And it gets worse. The prince banishes Romeo to Mantua, no more Verona. It's like a death sentence for their love.
Romeo's devastated, can't blame him. And then Lord Capulet, thinking it will help Juliet, decides she should marry Paris right away.
Talk about terrible timing. Poor Juliet. She's already secretly married, her husband's been banished, and now her father's forcing her into another marriage. That's a lot to handle.
It is. She refuses, of course. Her parents are furious. Even the nurse tells her to just marry Paris. It seems like everyone's against her.
Desperate times call for desperate measures. Juliet goes to Friar Lawrence for help. Act 4, things get even more intense.
The friar comes up with this wild plan, a sleeping potion, to make Juliet appear dead. She'll wake up later, and Romeo can take her away. It's crazy. But what choice does she have?
Right. She's terrified. But she's brave, too. She takes the potion.
Talk about a leap of faith. Meanwhile, back at the Capulet house, they're planning the wedding. Then they find Juliet seemingly dead. Talk about a plot twist.
Total chaos. Now they're planning a funeral, not a wedding. And Juliet's in the family tomb. It's like the dramatic irony.
And no one can tell Romeo what's really going on.
Oh.
Which brings us to Act V, and the tragedy really unfolds.
Romeo's waiting for news from Verona. He doesn't know about the plan. And then his servant arrives, tells him Juliet's dead. Can you imagine?
Oh, it's heartbreaking. Romeo's world collapses. He decides to go back to Verona. He wants to die with Juliet. He even buys poison.
And meanwhile, Friar Lawrence finds out that his message about the plan, it never got to Romeo.
The messenger got stuck in quarantine.
Yeah.
Plague. The worst possible luck. The friar rushes to the tomb, hoping it's not too late.
But he's too late. Romeo gets there first, sees Paris mourning Juliet, and thinks he's an enemy. They fight. Romeo kills Paris. Talk about a chain reaction of tragedy.
Inside the tomb, Romeo sees Juliet, drinks the poison, and dies. And moments later, Juliet wakes up to find Romeo dead.
Oh my gosh, talk about devastating. The friar tries to get her to leave, but she refuses. She sees the poison vial, Romeo's dagger, and that's it.
The prince, the Montagues, the Capulets, they all arrive and find this horrific scene. The friar tells everyone about the secret marriage, the plan, the message that never got delivered.
And finally, after all this death, the families reconcile. It's a gloomy piece. So much loss, so much pain, but there's a tiny bit of hope. Maybe this will end the feud for good.
Looking back, you can see how every scene, every plot twist built up to this. The Capulet ball, it's where it all began. The balcony scene, pure romance, but also foreshadowing the danger.
Mercutio's death, Romeo's banishment, Juliet faking her death, it's a chain reaction. Shakespeare was a master of building suspense and drama.
And so much of it hinges on chance. If the message had gotten to Romeo, everything would be different. Romeo and Juliet, they're the ultimate example of star-crossed lovers.
They both change so much throughout the play. Romeo, so impulsive, but we see a little maturity at the end. And Juliet, she starts out obedient, but she becomes so strong, so brave, she makes her own choices, even when it's dangerous.
Yeah, she's an amazing character. Even the other characters like Mercutio, Tybalt, the nurse, the friar, their actions drive the plot, but they're also driven by it.
It all comes back to those big themes: love, hate, fate, family, the pressures of society, and Shakespeare makes us think about them in such a powerful way. Why should we care about a play written hundreds of years ago? Because these themes are still relevant. We still struggle with them today.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What if things had gone a little differently? What tiny events, what little choices shape our own lives? And how often are we caught in the middle of conflicts, ancient grudges that aren't ours to begin with? That's what makes this play so timeless, so thought-provoking.
That's a perfect note to end on. Romeo and Juliet may be a tragedy, but it makes us think about love, hate, fate, all those big questions.
And that's what great art does. Makes you think, feel, and maybe even question everything.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time.